Okay, so here is how we did the circles. I'll uncomment this. And we're using I as sort of our variable to control the width. I did ellipse. I could have done circle, I guess, and then didn't have to put it in two different places. But we did ellipse. Oops, I forgot to comment out this one. So I'll go back to our stack of circles. Notice that we started with the big circle, right? We started with I equals width, and we're counting down. So it's totally fine to count in a different direction. You do not have to always go up. You can control it however you want to control it. So here's it running, and the random fill is how I'm getting the different shades of gray, and I think that works out pretty nicely. We get some cool. It's different every time. That one is surprisingly lacking in dark ones at the edge, but it's just random, so that's cool. I would say if you wanted to experiment with this, you could do some really fun stuff. I, for example, will go and turn off stroke weight altogether. Watch what happens. If I turn off stroke weight, I'll set it to no stroke. That's a function that you can just say, goodbye stroke, you're not going to be here anymore. And you kind of guess what's going to happen there. We're going to get like no line outside, which already looks kind of cool, actually. I'm kind of into that. This is a wallpaper generator. You can make your fortune in concentric circle wallpapers you're going to generate for people's desktops. This is my new hustle, my side hustle. That'll get me to millions of dollars. Now, imagine now that you're going to actually decrease this to like a really small number. Like, what if I was to make it like going down by like 5 each time? And then really, really tight circles. And then what if we made it so that the colors sort of like started, say it started dark and then went down, like not random, but sort of decreased. So it was like, 255, 250, 245. So it got darker and lighter, lighter, lighter as we go. So you might wonder, how would you do that, right? How would you do that? You could stick I in here. That would be fine. So it's going to start at some huge number, and it's going to go down, 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 down. But this is 1,000, and our maximum value for a shade of gray is 255, right? So it doesn't really work. We could try it, see what happens. So it's cool. They got a cool like fuzzy blob here, but what happened on the edge? Well, it's above 255, so we got like just beyond white. So a lot of those circles were lost. So what I can do is use the map function. So the map function, you know how it changes a range? It's been a while. You might have not thought about it too much for a while, but it kind of converts from one number to another, and the first number is in some group, some range, and you convert it to another range. So I can make a new variable. I'll call it G for gray. And I don't really care what it is when it starts off with. But what I'll do is I'll map I, which goes from, it's going to start at 1,000, and it goes down to 0, and I'll just say width, although it doesn't really matter. And then I'm going to map it to a new range, which is 255 to 0. So now I have a G, I'll set that G to this map here. So it's sort of like converting I that goes from width to 0 and converting it to go from 255 to 0. So when I is width, then G will be 255. And then I'll just kind of figure out what the numbers are in between. And then I'll fill with G instead. And I'll run that. Oh, I guess I won't run that. Oh, yeah. Here's an issue. G is an int. I should have made it a float. So I'll change that to be a float because map produces a float. And if I run that, we'll get like, oh, that's like surprisingly like fuzzy thing going on there, almost like a shadow or something. And we can go the other way as well. We could start at black and go down to white. So I'll just flip the map function to start at black when it's width and go down to white. So we'll get like, oh, it looks like a sphere. It's pretty great. And like if you've ever sort of wondered how you could generate these kind of patterns, and that's how. I'll just make it, just so it's a little bit more obvious of what's going on, I'll just increase the size of this to like 20 or so. So you can kind of see the bands a little bit more. So these are just individual circles each time going down. Sorry, I keep obscuring this. Maybe you want to see this. So the map function just lets us put the range in the right place. So we can sort of, get a certain color at the edge of our circle instead of being dependent on the exact number. That's I. So that's kind of fun. Yeah, it looks good. You can keep expanding it, and of course you can make different colors as well. You could, put this in red, green, blue type of fill, and that could become like a shade of red now. So it'll be like, I guess, black to red. So you can kind of experiment with different things going on, and it looks actually pretty cool. Yeah, so there you go. There's circles. The last one we're going to do, I think, we have time for one more. This is the rectangles. So I'll tell you right now, I cheated on this. I used rect mode center to generate this one. Rect mode center just means that it'll function like an ellipse. It looks sort of like, if I could go back to processing, you could say rect mode center. And center has to be all capital letters and spelled the American way. It'll turn purple on your screen, and that means it will treat the x and y coordinates of a rectangle in the rect function as the center of the rectangle, not the top corner. So that makes it a lot easier. That's pretty much the same as our previous code, but see if you can experiment with that a little bit and see if you can change that up if you want to. Okay, good luck.